You're like not technical at all, right? You have, you're not like a software developer or anything like that.
No, my whole experience is like growing and building sales and revenue teams within tech companies, but I've never coded before.
Well, I'm not going to start this a weird way, so I'm just going to tell you a story anyway. So I'm down in Georgia right now on St. Simon's Island, and I've family that live here. And my cousin is he just graduated UGA as a programmer. And I was showing him last night Replit for the first time. And he's like, he codes everything the hard way. And I've been building stuff on my end, just like vibe coding my heart out, basically. And I was like, dude, you got to come look at this thing. He's like, I don't know, man. Like, I do it the real way. Like, I actually know how to code. And I'm like, I understand that. But also, I know that you can't code everything. And I know that you have a limited amount of time, right? And he's like, well, I mean, technically. I'm like, dude, come here. And I like pulled him away from his laptop, sat him in front of mine. And I had Replit. I'm like, just make whatever app. And we made a snarky to-do list app in 10 minutes. And he's like, oh.
Mind blown.
Wait. Yeah, dude. He's like, wait a minute. I love doing the back-end development of all this stuff. I hate doing the front-end and UI stuff. I'm like, this can do that for you. It's incredible.
Oh, man.
And he left. He's like, I got some things to think about.
Was his reaction on par, better, or worse than me sitting on your couch and you showing me this for the first time?
I think your mind blew more because he kind of understands what's available to someone who can program. And I think for people like us who can't, that leap of like, I could never do this and I know that I'm going to need this at some point and it's going to cost me a lot of money I paid $180 and now I've made 3 apps out of nothing and they're actually usable is like a huge frame break.
I think I was telling you, I was like, my co-founder that's really technical and like very ops and process heavy is like, these things will take years to make or months to make, and you're going to need a software developer. And I'm telling him about this and I'm like, dude, I don't even know what the difference between like front end and back end or any of that stuff is, and I figured out how to do this, so you definitely should be able to.
Dude, it's crazy. It's like full democratization of like creation on the digital like interfaces. It's crazy. Now everybody can build anything. I'm really interested in what happens next. Again, I showed you this on my couch like 3 weeks ago. And now you've built like basically Tinder for entrepreneurs, which is hilarious.
It's literally called Tinder for Founders at the top of like the deploy header. Like with our business, age matters a ton. It's like, people are the product and people between like 25 to 45 are really good fits for any community-based business. And you obviously can't filter for that on Sales Nav. The closest thing you can get is saying like this many years of experience. But even then, maybe somebody didn't put all their companies on their LinkedIn. This is like the closest thing we found to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's so important. And the amount of things that you're going to be able to do with all the data that you guys have, it's going to be really fun. But also, like, again, you can build anything in like a week, which is nuts.
Insane for folks listening. I'm like non-technical entirely. Like I don't know how to code. I don't really understand a lot of it. It's been great for me to build these like very MVP style products that honestly have bugs and don't work totally, but the framework's there. And then the people on my team that are more technical can take what was in my brain and just run with it so much faster, which is cool.
For now, I think that's going to be the big play is like founders getting an MVP out, getting it enough to a point, right, where like it is kind of glitchy, kind of buggy, but actually gets across what they wanted. And then they can use that to go get funding, or they can use that to go at least get their first like 100 customers, and then they find somebody who's super technical and actually can fix and or build the thing in reality so that it's actually, a real formative, founded, like strong application that doesn't break all the time.
It's kind of like ChatGPT for me. Like the more I have used Replit, the smarter I've got on, okay, I know how I have to prompt this to get some type of output. And it's obviously much more logic based, but you've obviously used it a lot longer than me. I'm going to be like very interested to see what it is like in 7 months or in 18 months.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I started this thing in December because I was like, I found it. I'm like, you know what? How good is this thing? I heard it was pretty cool and like kind of magical. But they said that about every GPT release, and I'm like, yes, this is better, but how much? And then I did this thing on Replit, and I was like, oh my god. But even back then, like now, the build process for an app on Replit is like crazy fast, way better. You can now select items within the UI, so you can like adjust things from the UI as if you're like a dummy user, and then just go, I want this button to do that, and it just says, okay, great, I'm gonna go do that then. Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, I haven't even I prompted my ChatGPT like a week ago, and it's like, this is what our business is, what we sell, this is what we do. What are all the things I could build, like CX or sales related, that would make sense for my company? And I was like, give me 100 ideas, and obviously there were a lot of bad ones. There were like some that I was like, holy shit, this is like amazing.
Anything that you want to share with the group?
I mean, the lead Tinder one was pretty big. Even just like we use Airtable for like all the data on our members, and we've always been looking for like a way to pop up a good member directory, and we are starting to like think about it for that. My RevOps guy and my COO is building a lot of like database infrastructure for like scoring leads and tracking leads, and I don't know, even to the dumbest stuff. Like we used Attio as a CRM, and last week I sent Jack from my team, who's my RevOps guy, why does Attio have these 30 buttons on? Like I just don't need these, and they get in the way and they confuse me. And he's like, I can't get rid of them. It's Attio. I was like, we could probably make our own CRM that like just pulls the stuff in that we want.
You absolutely could. I mean, there's also platforms that could do that too, and like give you at least more freedom than Attio does. But
what's the biggest ways that you're using it, like in your company right now?
well, let's put it this way. I have 12 apps deployed already that are like we're fully using. You know, some of them are outwardly facing. So like I built like this little like slider for investment, like level of investment across different marketing axioms, and like what that does to your business goals. Like if you're trying to get leads, or if you're trying to do this, like play with like what organic social does to those things, or lead management, or like Meta ads, Google ads, whatever that is. And then that's using that as like a sales tool internally. Like we design websites, so, and we have a maintenance plan, and everybody gets a certain amount allotted to them in terms of number of hours per month, and then they stack up to 5 hours, right? And I was like, this is kind of annoying to track on a spreadsheet. So now we have a full-on like web dashboard that has all of our clients, their total number of hours that they have based on their plan, and then we track changes within that dashboard for each client, so we know what we've changed for them, when we've done it, how long it took, and then how many hours they have left, so they can ask and we can actually give them a real answer rather than like, I think you have like 3 hours.
That's legit.
That, and then we're building like a customized reporting dashboard for all of our social media clients, so I can generate reports that actually I like, because I think the big thing with a lot of the other, you know, like agency tools, one, they're really expensive and they charge you like per account that you're managing. I don't want to do that. I built my own, and I can add as many as I want, and I only pay for server usage, which is like $4 every 2 months.
Wow.
We're branding it, so it's our colors, our name at the top, that whole thing, which some people allow you to customize. But then also I can say, these are the reports that I want. These are the style of charts that I want to show. When I hit give us a report, it's going to give us something that we can actually use. So those are just some of them. But then we also do stuff like helping others. So we work in the salon space a lot, and they need help creating captions because they just don't know what to write. And so we built a whole tool that is now publicly facing for members of a community that we run for them, that they can just type in their name, what they do, and a little bit about what they want to say, or like a starter point, and it'll finish it for them based on best practice. I built ChatGPT enabled apps in like a day. It's been crazy, and like the list goes on, but those are just some of the highlights for sure that I'm like, okay, what else?
It's pretty cool that you can at least get that kickstarted for your clients. The thing I've been most blown away by is the UI, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
it can. I'm very big on. This annoys my team. If something is ugly or doesn't look very good, or I don't feel good using it, I just intuitively hate the application, even if it does what I want it to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, going from a user first perspective, that's always the biggest thing is UI UX. But if you're a programmer, you tend to be like, no, it's technically really beautiful, and I'm like, I don't like using it, so that doesn't help, right? And like, well, I'm like, if it doesn't look cool and I don't like using it, it doesn't feel good, like that's a problem. And so this actually allows you to code from like UI down instead of code base up, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct term, but that's what it feels. That feels right.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting, and I know what we're going to dive into is how these folks that are probably not running like a tech company or non-technical are able to use a tool like this for obviously so many different things in a business, in any type of business, which is fascinating.
Oh yeah, dude. I think I'm really interested to see where this goes for the bootstrap founder specifically, because they're no longer going to have to like pay $400 a month for like basic tooling to run stuff. They can just build what they want and add features as they need them for like next to nothing if they're the ones that are building it. Again, the big issue here is like no one's coming to save you if it breaks, which is huge, to be honest. And once you get to a certain size, right, like I think that's when you have to hire an engineer to kind of manage those applications and like, you know, not run them on servers that are provided by the company that you vibe coded on, right? I think there's a level that you get to where like security is going to be really important. Your data is going to be way more important, even though there are like security features and security scan features and like code-based checks and stuff like that built into these systems. In the meantime, though, right, like these small niche like custom tool builders, especially like out of third world countries and stuff, like selling into the US, I think are going to struggle really hard from here on out because founders are like, well, I just wanted to do this. And now it does. I think that's going to be really interesting. And they can make it do whatever they need to in the way that they want to do it, which I think is really important, right? It's going to be like custom fitting a suit versus one off the peg, right? It's going to look good. It's going to feel better. It's going to like actually do the job. I'm really excited to see what that's going to do. But then also, I think SaaS companies as a whole, like if you're a startup founder as a SaaS company right now, I'm worried.
Me too. Like the stuff that has been able to be built even on my end, and like I have no idea what I'm doing with this stuff, and it's very functional for me, you know. And these SaaSes too, like I mean, they're expensive to build, they're expensive to run, they don't always do the things you want them to do. I think a lot of these revenue operations tools, there's 150,000 of them, and there's like 19 that I want to use that if they all worked in one way, I could just use one, but they don't, and they don't integrate together, and they don't talk to each other. Now you can build a lot of that functionality for $200 or something like
maybe $200, and you own it. Like,
right.
I'm going to be really interested in, again, also valuations for companies that maybe wouldn't have as high valuation otherwise, but are building like custom tooling that actually really works for them, and what that does to valuations at sale. Because, you know, it's one of those where like, okay, you know, as we said, like I run a marketing agency, but it's you like, okay, which one of the standard stacks are you using? So that way, if we purchase you, like you can either fit in or like, what are your differentiators? And you're like, well, we have market capture in this kind of segment. So if you want that segment, that's when you buy someone. But now it's like, actually, we own a really impressive like content engine builder that we build ourselves that no one else has. Like that's a differentiator. Or like we have a management tool for website design and maintenance that like no one else has. It's really effective. Great. Or like, hey, our reporting tool is completely different than what everybody else is doing, and it allows us to like scale up as much as we want with the data that we need to report to all of our clients in a really easy way so they can see, you know, close to live, or at least, you know, we update it weekly on like where they are, right? There are other tools that do that, but there's a subscription there. Yes, we have to manage it ourselves, but like it could be a proprietary benefit. Now, the opposite could also be true, right? Because if someone's like running a really standard thing and they're like, we're just going to only focus on agencies that are within, like we can just kind of plug in to our current setup, you know, that's the opposite. That's the risk.
Well, I found some cool businesses that I think would be neat to talk about how this is applicable. It's actually less even the company, it's more the person,
Okay.
which I think will be cool. So I'll pull a couple of these folks up. So
This is my favorite part.
episode number 40, where we find out if Eric knows how to screen share and use his computer. Okay, so this one's Sophie Helfen. She built this company called The Art of Broth, and I didn't really realize until I like started looking into her. She's like pretty viral on TikTok, and that is clearly how she's grown the company. It's sipping broth, but it's in like these tea bag components, right? So she bootstrapped like the entire thing, got a bunch of speaking gigs, is like going viral on TikTok for just walking into stores and like pitching this. She's clearly not like technical. Like if you look at her background, it's all sales and marketing related. She at least alludes to this in a lot of these TikTok videos. Her like customer experience has to be the equivalent of 3 people's full-time jobs. Like she's talking to so many of these people, she's tracking so many of these orders. A bunch of these videos, she's like holding up a notebook with it. Like it's clearly very manual. I heard Adam Robinson last week talk about this. I think it's called like Delphi or something like that. This app that fielded like 92% of their customer service, like complaints, requests, connections, bug fixes, and it fielded almost all of them correctly. And he trained a ChatGPT model like that. Well, it'll be interesting for like productized physical product businesses like this that I do think get a lot of review, complaint, requests, is how do you just not take a bunch of time away from the founder? And I think tools like Replit would actually be like very interesting to build agents and stuff that do that.
Yeah, I think agents in their entirety, I think it's just still like you have to have a certain set of knowledge parts to like really build an agent. I would almost be interested for her if she built like hey, which one should I try first kind of, it could be a quiz, but it could just be like a kind of a selector, like an adaptive, selector piece. It's like, okay, I normally like this, and this based on that, which like it's a recommendation engine basically that she could build for like, okay, if you're a first time broth sipper, right? That's what I would want to know. I'm like, do I start with, is there just like beef broth, or like, do I start with something a little bit lighter, or what? Like that could be a fun tool to have for sure. But I totally agree though, if she's doing a ton of this stuff manually, like build it, right?
100%. Well, it's a cool legacy business too. Like it's her family's company. Like she took it over for her dad. And what I think is fascinating about these like objectively normal, boring companies that like they're not selling something that's like sexy, innovative technology, is when people take over companies for their family. I mean the like son or daughter, I think tends to be a lot more ambitious, disruptive, like wants to add something that is theirs to this legacy. And I think you're going to see a lot of founders that fall in that like second, third generation entrepreneur, I think being like much more tech forward or trying to be.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of people kind of ripping their legacy businesses into the 20th century, right? As the boomers go out. We always hear the opposite, right? The kids don't want the business. So there's a bunch of stuff getting sold right now, and it's, you got to find the old folks that are just trying to get out and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, also, like, let's keep an eye out for the young guns that are the kids of these people that are about to just take these legacy businesses into the future, and they're already set up for success. They just haven't, like, marketed digitally, and that's really their biggest hang up. And now that they have a digitally native CEO, things are going to happen pretty quickly because they get it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I don't actually know a lot of like second generation entrepreneurs, which is interesting. I think they are more, you find it a lot more in like blue collar.
Yeah.
But they fascinate me.
Yeah. Like last name and sons, right? Like that's always what it ends up being.
Yeah. And then it's like, I really want to change the name. Don't want to like ruin my parents' legacy. Like, I guess we'll just leave it. All that stuff's fascinating too. Like, what do you agree to change or don't change, or stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be case by case, but I think the biggest commonality is always going to be more digitally focused moves, essentially.
Yeah. So the second one that I thought would be interesting to talk about is not somebody I had to Google. I like know this person, so that makes it a little bit easier. I think you guys have met before too, right? Eric Gordon.
Yes, I have talked to Eric Gordon before. He's a cool dude. He's a serious man.
For people that are unfamiliar, Eric Gordon is a sales dog. Like the man, I think, could sell anything to anybody, and he'd probably be able to make money doing it. He randomly texted me a week and a half ago and was like, "Do you know any like trash removal companies I can purchase?" No, I don't have a Rolodex of trash removal companies.
Not yet.
Not yet. What is like fascinating about Eric's background, like this is something I don't think I could do. So like the guy spent his entire career in sales. And if you meet Eric, he would tell you like he loves sales, he loves making money, he's really good at it, he loves the thrill of it. And their reps that were like very top performing cold calling reps that he would tell you are best chances to make money when these reps are on the phone. They would tell him they were spending like over half their day sending and writing emails. And he's like, why? You know, and they're like, oh, like follow up from a call or just like general outbounding, or I see something interesting on the internet and I want to send like a personalized email. He's like, one, they're not good at that. This isn't the skill they have. And two, it's taking so much time. Like they're calling half the amount of people they could have called. So he started this cold email software called Parakeet, which is a direct competitor to like an Instantly or a reply.io, if you're familiar, or a Woodpecker. What's interesting about this is I think a lot of these other like cold email softwares are founded by tech guys, and their products are like pretty sexy and like have been around a little bit longer. He's a sales guy building text like software for founders / sellers, which I think has made like the development of the app really interesting. He completely bootstrapped this thing with his own money. Eric is like coding this himself and then like giving it to a team of developers, similarly to how I'm like working with my team. That's just fascinating to me. Like a guy who has no interest in tech, no tech background, has never coded a single thing in his life, decides to go all in on like building a cold email software agency and then attaching his like entire legacy to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see this a lot more. I mean, he's just one of like the early examples, right? Where he's like, well, I can do this thing and I need it for me. So what happens if I just build it so that other people can use it too, right? And then I just add another revenue stream. But then you run the risk, right, of like, okay, I'm a salesperson. I own a sales, like outbound sales company. And now I'm also running a SaaS company. And then I'm also running maybe another SaaS company because we built another tool, right? Like that turns into craziness real fast. Yeah. But it's a cool thing that you can even do it now.
Yeah, I mean, he, I think, said that. He's like, we built this for us. Like, that my intention wasn't to, I was just trying to get my reps more time on the phone, and then realized, like, holy crap, like, super intuitive. It works differently, and I assume other people have this problem.
Yeah, I mean, and they do, right? I mean, Instantly's huge.
I don't know what gosh dang post I liked on LinkedIn, but I'm getting sponsored Instantly ads 14 times a day.
You're just on LinkedIn more than anybody else I know, so I think that's probably why.
It's gotten to the point that my mom, if I'm like at home and I pull my phone out at dinner, she used to be like, who's texting you? Now she's like, who's LinkedIn DMing you?
Well, that's what happens when you do 90% of your outbound on LinkedIn. So
do you get those things on your iPhone that's like, here's how much your screen time was this week. Here's where you spent the time. I know what mine is, and I don't open it.
19 hours a day on average on LinkedIn.
It's like LinkedIn and YouTube. Those are my go-tos.
Sounds productive.
The third one, last one here that I think would be like really interesting. Mm-hmm. This person also, I don't believe is super technical and has a business that I haven't per se seen somebody like talk about this way before. So seems Lasey Palamaki, and he runs this company called The Strategic Student. This man gets an insane amount of likes. Every single one of his LinkedIn posts. His content that he produces is freaking incredible. His writing format's incredible. I had to shout him out for it. And he essentially will be like, look, a lot of companies out there will help kids get into college, or like there's a lot of structure for that even in high school. There's not a lot about how to take your degree and then like go get the job that you actually want, that pays you what you want, that gets you on the career path that you want. He talks a lot about how kids don't start thinking about that until they're 21, 22 and they need a job, and you really got to start thinking about it when you're 19 and when you're 20. And his whole business model is he basically does like one-to-one coaching with like interns or people that are trying to make the most of their internship or go like use an offer. He's also starting to sell into universities because he wants to go in and do these big, I assume like multi-100 person presentations to students. Stuff like that and gamifying it is, I think, where AI would be really interesting.
This is a really interesting setup. Also, hold on. Close your messaging before we scroll on this thing. If we're gonna use it, I just don't want people looking through your DMs.
Oh, I know. I don't want people to see what an absolute baller I am at sending LinkedIn DMs, though.
The secret sauce is out. No, I mean, he's got a really cool, interesting business. The Strategic Student.
Yeah. Let me. He doesn't have this hyperlinked. Let's say if you're reading this, you got to hyperlink that, man. Yeah. Let me.
Gotta hyperlink it. The branding is really, I mean, straightforward. There's not a lot of fluffiness here, which is, very European of him.
He is from Finland, I believe.
There you go. That checks out. No, it's a really cool concept. I think the AI side for him, again, would be more of like, how do you automate some of this prep ahead of time? Or like, how do you build pathways to identify where the students are lacking most? And then that can guide like a one-on-one session way more actively. Or how do you scale it by kind of mimicking what questions and prep things that you ask and basically building like a treasure trove of like, okay, if they are struggling with this, then this is what I do, and build that into like a giant spreadsheet and then throw that into like a Replit, integrate, one of the AI LLMs using that as a backbone and turn it into a chatbot, or even like a quiz into like here's what we recommend. You can practice interviews with us here. Here are some questions
really
based on where you're struggling. It would take a little bit of effort for sure, but you could do like, here are all the questions that we test our students with so that they feel prepped. Use these and then create derivatives. And then as they struggle, right, you throw in the questions that you would typically prep them on. And then when you do the one-on-one stuff, it's purely just conversational back and forth of like mental prep beyond what the tool could do. I think that would be really cool. And then you get points, basically, like based on how many questions you get right or you answer sufficiently. Yeah, gamifying it that way. And then maybe, if you get X amount of points right, then he gives you like an extra half hour.
I feel the same way about scaling a company like this and like the use of AI. My buddy has a wife who just went full-time and has been running this company like 2 years part-time, and it's a math tutoring company. She literally just coaches kids. I mean, like a bunch of elementary school teachers, there's a subject or two that they do not feel as confident in teaching. And for a lot of people, that's math. And I come in and work with the teacher and build custom curriculum, and I coach these kids. And, he's like, look, it's basically like almost a $200K a year business, but she's tapped out on time, even going full time into it. Like, how do you scale that? I kind of feel the same way about this like one-to-one coaching model. But what you said is really interesting because like, I don't know, I'm sure people feel this way talking to a therapist. There are parts where like you don't have a call with your therapist scheduled for 5 more days, but like you really want to talk to somebody. This interview prep could also feel similar. Pulling out of his brain into like a bot that someone could talk to at any time and then gamify it in some way that prepares him for their real life conversations would be freaking awesome.
Oh, dude, you could totally do a really cool crowdsourcing thing here too, where, you go in for an interview or a style of interview, right? And it does interview prep for that style of business. But then afterwards, and after you get out of the interview, if you choose to, you can enter in the questions that you are asked back into the software that he builds. And then it's working off of a bank of like questions that are actually asked by, and you could probably categorize it like Fortune 500, tech or pharma or, whatever, based on the things that they're actually going after. And then it's kind of learning based on like the updated questions, and then the user gets some type of benefit if they do enter in those things afterwards.
I love that. What could be cool too is like a bunch of these internships. My internship at Adobe was structured this way. I got mentored. I had a boss, but I also had a like mentor that did the internship 2 years prior and was like, look, here's some things I messed up. Here's what I do differently. Here's some advice. He could do that with people that got offers or went through his coaching program, and kids would geek out on that stuff. Like particularly probably like only child kids that didn't have like an older brother or sister to like get advice from. Like I would have geeked out on that. Yeah. I'm not talking about myself.
Sure you are. That's how you know it's a good idea, because it works for you.
Exactly. Yeah. All three of these like They're all pretty different, obviously, but I mean, look, man, I think AI is just going to keep getting more advanced and better, and I think it's not going to replace a lot of these things, but man, is it going to make your business 20 times more powerful if you can fluently like both use it and talk about it in front of your clients.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, there's a cool group that you picked out. You want to talk to one of them?
Yes. All right. Well, yeah, person I wanted to bring on and have Steven, you and I talk through today is Eric Gordon. So Eric's the founder of a company called Outbound Sales Pro. He is also the founder of a business called Parakeet, which is a cold email software sending tool for cold emails. So help founders and sales teams and everywhere in between make sure that their emails that they're sending don't land in spam.
Nice to meet you, Eric.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about a lot of like AI vibe coder, low code, no code kind of tooling and how that's been shifting and changing a lot of what's happening in the entrepreneurship space specifically. Creating things now has become more easy and cheaper than ever, right? Like you no longer have to hire a whole suite of people to come up with an MVP or, design something specifically or pay $900 a month for a tool that you could probably have built if you just had the wherewithal to do so on your own. Would love to hear more about how you and your team is set up. And then obviously as you're building this product, right? Like how are you integrating the tools, the various tools? What tools are you using? That kind of a thing to kind of get your landscape in order and get more productivity out of the people that you have right now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, little background on us, like we started building our app almost 2 years ago, and we have like a dev team of engineers and like very technical people that are actually coding, and they've been fully focused on this for a while now, almost 2 years. Like we're building a pretty big platform, so they're very focused. Like they have lots of stuff in their like both in their backlog and like the stuff they're actively working on. When some of these AI tools started coming out, or actually when I started learning more about these AI, like no code app building solutions, I just started playing with them. And like one of the things that I found really interesting was that like I didn't have to either like ask our dev team or like bog our dev team down with some like really simple requests that I typically would have otherwise. So the first tool I learned about was Bolt.
Mm.
And I was just like playing around with it. And in our backlog, which I knew was really important for our dev team to do, was this new updated onboarding experience. I think Eric knows this story, Eric Harrison. I went through and was like, okay, let's just see if I can get like a prototype going of this onboarding flow that typically might, take months for like a full dev team to like build out fully. That's when I was started like obsessing over this thing. Like I think I lost a few hours of sleep because I'm like, I need to get this. I want to figure this thing out. I want to get this thing going. But yeah, like in a course of like days, not weeks, I built this onboarding prototype in Bolt where it was almost fully functioning, just not connected to our app. Ended up sending it to our dev team and they just implemented, they had to update some of the code. It wasn't perfect, but they implemented this thing in our app and it's like, it went live within a week of me sending it. So it was one of those things where it was like, holy shit, like this is just the beginning of what is possible with some of these tools. I don't know how long ago this was. It wasn't super long ago, but like maybe several months back. Since then, we've given subscriptions to these tools like Bolt. We use Replit as another one. We've given subscriptions to all of our team, like our customer facing team, our sales reps, customer service reps, and support team. Our SDR manager just built using a no code app builder this like bingo card, like dashboard, like celebration screen. So when one of his SDRs crushes it, like they can go in and celebrate with the team. And it's on this like gamified app that he's built.
That's cool.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's not the best example of how we're driving productivity, but like that's cool shit. Like our team is innovating every single day.
It's also a really cool way to like formulate culture inside of an organization like that, to build things that are so custom to how you want to run it. That to me is like, I guess it's not super high, what I would call like return on investment value, like directly, but man, is it cool to like understand and go into an ecosystem that's custom built for what you guys want to do. And it's much easier to do that when the bill to build that isn't like $10,000+ for like a bingo game,
Exactly.
right? Worth of people's time. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah,
And
it's super cool.
You're like not technical at all, right? You have you're not like a software developer, anything like that.
No, my whole experience is like growing and building sales and revenue teams within tech companies, but I've never coded before. Like I can maybe get by understanding like the basics of like the basic fundamentals, but no, like I'm purely just using prompts to tell an AI model what to build, and it's going in and just building shit. Like it's building these apps that are like to some level beyond prototypes. Like they're functional apps that we can use in our day to day.
Was there a moment when you started messing around with a lot of the AI vibe coding or just getting more deeper into developing Parakeet's software where you were like, holy shit, I'm smart enough and capable enough to build like code and software?
That is an interesting one because to some extent, at least in my experience, like I kind of I hit this like ceiling or I get like stuck along the way where I can build this really cool prototype, but I can't actually like connect the dots in the back end or behind the scenes. And I know there's a lot of tools out there that are trying to solve that problem, more of the back end no code solution. But yeah, like if you're building a simple like, gamified celebration app for like booking meetings, like cool, you don't really need to connect the dots. But when you get to something that's more complex with different pieces that have to talk to each other, like in my case, I'm looping in our dev team to say, hey, need your help connecting these things so they talk and they work in a way that makes sense for what we're trying to build. I might not have all the answer to this. Like there might be solutions out there that could figure that stuff out for me where like I could then build more bigger, better things. I just don't know about it yet.
I think I've run into the same issue, right? Like I build a ton of stuff for my business, but where it has to go and call for other services that are provided by other corporations, specifically like, well, when Replit started, right? I was fairly early. Like I started messing with it in November of last year, in 2024, right when they started coming out with like their agent program. And then it was like, it was cool. You could get stuff out, but it had a ton of limitations. And now even just like a few months later or half a year later, right, they've now integrated like basically like drop-in authentication program that then is already integrated to your Outlook, Gmail, and like all these other services so that you don't have to go stand up Google Cloud services yourself, because I tried to go through that and that sucked. And then now it's like, okay, if you want to pay for anything within apps, now they even have like the Stripe integration and you just need your Stripe key, right, to start charging people within the apps that you're building. And that was a huge unlock for a lot of people. So I can only imagine that in the next 6 months beyond that, they're going to come out with something that's like, okay, what do you need to talk to? Or like, here's your Zapier integration thing that we're just going to have for Replit as a whole. And it's just going to ask you for your little link where your app's getting hosted on Replit if you are doing that. And then it just goes. Like, I can totally see that being those walls coming down slowly. But I totally agree right now that biggest limitation is like, how do I connect this stuff together through other services that will make this even better? Because my big thing right now, again, is like maps is really tough. But beyond that, like that's not going to happen. Like within the next 2 months, I can almost guarantee they're going to fix that.
I would tend to agree. The way that this is all progressing, like these AI tools and how quickly they're just getting better and better. Yeah, we should have solutions for that pretty quickly. The really cool thing, like when I first started using Bolt, you learn like tips and tricks when you're doing these things. It's like, okay, I'm going to give it these prompts and like see what the outcome is. And like, okay, that didn't quite work. Roll it back, adjust the prompt you did before and like try it again. And like that became my like, it was like a rhythm. I go in Bolt now, it's like, okay, you don't really have to do that as much anymore because like it's starting to figure out how to get this thing right the first time. That's cool. Like talk about rapid development. Like that is, it's almost like a self-learning or machine learning system that just keeps getting better over time.
Yeah, the inference that it's starting to get to when you say this, and that actually means these 4 other things actually have to happen to make this one action be sufficient and or operate in a way that would make sense to a human is super impressive. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of also interested, like as you kind of deployed these different tools to your team, right? I would assume you've noticed some type of increase in productivity across the board, but like to what scale has that been? Like, are you guys like, I'm not even going to frame it in a way other than like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, yeah, minor improvement. Everyone's just coding to the same thing now, which is cool, versus like 10 being we're shipping features daily versus monthly.
We're probably at a 3 or 4 out of 10 based on where we could be. And again, like
Okay.
I'm thinking ahead of like where I want us to be. We are shipping cool things that make us more productive, no doubt. There was probably a really big learning curve initially where we probably lost productivity in the first at least few weeks. We rolled these things out. We had team members that were like just building stupid shit for fun, like just learning, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but like there's also an opportunity cost to it as well. So I would say like we probably lost some productivity. There was a curve. And then we got to the point where like we got our, like one of our sales, not sales reps, like one of our CSMs built an app to handle data. Like we work with a lot of client data. And all of a sudden, like we have this fully functional app that we don't need a human to like clean data sets anymore. We can just run it through the system. That's one example of something that was built just because like one of our CSMs wanted to build something that was more useful for their day to day. Now our whole team uses that tool.
Out of everything that your team has already started to build, is there one or two things that you think of has had like the highest impact, highest ROI on the way you guys do business?
That tool I mentioned is probably up there. Before that, like we were using lots of spreadsheets and VLOOKUPs and like really cleaning data, which is nothing wrong with that. That's what like a lot of companies do. And we realized like this takes so much time. If we just build a system where we just drop CSVs in here, or even better, V2 of this was just push it directly to this app that we built. It can just do it all for us, where we can save, it might only be like 10, 15 minutes here and there, but over the course of like a week or a month, like that is hours and hours that we're saving. It's crazy.
And maybe dumb question, but I feel like this is new for anyone building software. You're like bootstrapping this thing yourself pretty much, right?
Yeah, we are. So we launched, and like quick backstory, we launched our outbound sales agency kind of as like a side hustle to start. Took on a couple clients, almost accidentally kind of blew up into this larger thing where we started scaling and like adding teammates and just like growing that business. And we were using lots of other cold outreach email tools that didn't really do exactly what we wanted. So we ended up building our own. So all of this is like self-funded, bootstrapped. Like we've used all the revenue from our agency to grow our software business. We're still chugging along. It's a journey, but making a lot of cool progress now, which is fun.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I'm super impressed. What do you think the impact on like profitability then is using tools like this stuff, right? Like obviously you're getting more productivity out of your team, but do you think you're even going to be able to measure the amount of productivity gain, or like do you do that in some capacity, and have you noticed an uptick? Obviously we're small, it's hard to do, but
yeah, there's probably a better system that I could use for truly measuring like increase in productivity. I will say like as it relates to some of the tools that we've built, like we have replaced, and it doesn't necessarily mean like we've replaced humans and like let those folks go because we've added these software tools that did what a human was doing, but we were able to leverage those humans in other areas of the business and become more productive that way.
yeah.
Like this data tool, like we were able to reallocate hours upon hours of someone's time going to something better, more efficient. So yeah, I think like I am looking at more of like, yeah, when you look at like productivity, like there's also efficiency. And efficiency is like time and value, like value of that specific thing that we're trying to accomplish. And like we're still a small team. Like we have every person counts, and we want to make sure like we're spending our time in the right areas.
Software's always been really interesting to me because I don't know, maybe pre like 2023, I always felt like every software founder you talk to, if you grilled them on parts of their differentiator, they would always talk about the software. Like it was never about any other part of the business. It was always feature related. It was about what competitors did not have certain features. Are you worried at all about, I don't know, new cold email softwares that pop up being able to get to where businesses like you, businesses like Instantly or Reply.io are like very fast, or even come up with new things fast?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like when we first started building this thing, like we built it because we were using competing tools that weren't really doing exactly what we wanted them to do. So it's one of those like funny things about competitors. Like we have a ton of competitors, and there's new ones that will pop up and continue to pop up. I think as we leverage, like going back to the topic of AI tools and like building better, building faster, this will absolutely help us do things like test via prototypes, like what can work, like what our customer base might appreciate or like or want to pay more money for. So it helps us build the right things and like head in the right direction faster. At the end of the day, like I think everyone's going to be leveraging these tools. So it's just rapid app development at this point. The way that I think about our business and think about our like industry and our vertical, we just try to be the best at what we do. And like we're a big fan of like our customer service and human element, which like it's kind of unique. Like we're one of the only platforms out there that like all of our users get an onboarding call. And a lot of times they talk to me or someone from our team. And it's like we just add that human touch because everything is automated nowadays.
Well, on that point, right? Like the human touch and things like that for customer service, as you're building things with like no code tools, obviously you have a dev team that can kind of keep everything under wraps and management. And I think that definitely helps because what I see like a lot of these founders and stuff building, and myself included, right? Building these apps that like work 90%, but 90% is great if it's internal, but if it's external and you're going to have to deliver customer service to these things, are you noticing a difference between like, hey, this isn't working, or I need help doing this, or this through your customer service team based on some of the AI like development parts that you guys have like bolted on to Parakeet? Or have you not really noticed much of a difference?
We haven't noticed much of a difference because it goes to the same software development process where we would build the prototype, we'd hand it to our dev team. They would kind of do if it's 90%, they'd bring it to 100%, and it would go through our like QA and testing process. So we're pretty similar process there. But what I will say is like, we get there faster. Like if we're implementing and using those tools, like we can get to that point faster. And sometimes can even automate a lot of the QA piece. Like you can run through a lot of testing depending on like what we're building. But part of your question was customer facing, like how we make sure that stuff that we're shipping that customers see. We launched, this is something that I actually built. I was like, I kind of nerded out for a while and was like, okay, we share up until 4 or 5 months ago, we were sharing our analytics with our clients via things like a PowerPoint presentation or an Excel spreadsheet. Like, here are your stats. Here's all the stuff. This is, maybe a year ago, we got a designer and like built out, like it made it look really nice, but it's still at the end of the day, it's like it's PowerPoint or an Excel sheet. Like it's not super official. So I ended up building an analytics dashboard that would plug into the spreadsheets that we're using that automatically populate based on what we've generated for our clients. And what they get is their own custom login. So they feel like they have, it's custom software. They get to log into their dashboard. We get to, push all of our data so it's less work like updating and doing these things, and like it looks pretty damn official. And I would say like I built that thing to 100% using Bolt. We don't have all of our customers on it yet because like we have some old school clients, but like for a managed side of the business, like we probably have 40 plus clients that are logging into it every day and checking their stats.
That's awesome. I literally just built the same thing for my agency because like the tools that
awesome.
They charge you for monthly use for like social media agency owners and stuff like that. One, they all stink, and the ones that are good cost a ton of money. And I just built it in a week. Literally, I finished it right before we hopped on this call.
That's incredible. You'll have to send me a screenshot afterwards.
I will. I'm so stoked. I'm working on like the report, like external report to download because that always gets a little funky with like formatting and stuff like that. But hearing you say that, I was like, yo, dude, I know exactly how you feel. It feels so good when it's like, yo, this looks sick. And everyone's going to like actually understand what value we're creating because it's just going to be easier and nicer to read.
It feels better. Like your clients, it feels more official with your clients. And also like when it's in a custom dashboard, it's like, it doesn't look like you just manually put something into a spreadsheet, which like, sure, behind the scenes, maybe you're doing the same thing, but like then you can start automating it. Your data gets cleaner, your reports get better, and you can improve on like at the end of the day, like what the whole purpose of it, what reporting analytics means. It's how to like dial in certain areas of what you're doing in the business.
Totally agree. That's so cool. I'm so stoked for you, dude. That's awesome.
Ever since I went to Steven's place like a few weeks ago now, and he's like, have you heard of this Replit thing? I don't know. I feel like my whole world has been rocked by this stuff, and hearing you talk about it, Eric, is cool because I know you don't have a software background. So I hear about the cool stuff you're building and go home and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I could probably figure that out maybe. like a sales guy is figuring it out. Why couldn't I figure it out?
Yeah. And I think like Eric, you've been working on some really cool stuff too, which is probably more so around like the prospecting and like sales side of the business, but like those are still AI driven efficiencies that you're building and generating, which is incredible. Like that stuff didn't exist 6 months, a year ago.
Yeah, I would have never thought there was a world where I could code. Someone texted me today about it, and I was like, "Oh, you just yell at it like you do ChatGPT, except it writes code for you." What advice do you have to either someone who's running a company or I don't know, just working large scale in a business who is not technical, obviously, maybe more like you and I or Steven, but has no idea how to start using or even thinking about AI or software like this? What advice would you have for those folks?
It's similar to like the first time you go to ChatGPT. It's like, okay, what questions do I ask? That might have been the first thought that went through my head. It's like, what should I ask it? Should I have it write a poem? And now like I'm having conversations with ChatGPT like most of my day, which is just crazy. I go on my iPhone. It has like the productivity graph on your phone. It tells you what apps you're using the most. ChatGPT is my number one at the end of every workday. It's bad.
Really?
Yeah, but like my advice would be like just get in and try it. Like I think almost all of them have a free tier. Start by playing with it. I think one of like the first things I built on like the fun side of things was like a parakeet that was like eating something. It was like it was one of those like the dinosaur game on Google when it's like a broken screen.
Oh yeah.
I built that with a parakeet. Like I was just like, I wonder if we can do it, and it did. And like we were gonna put it on our homepage, and then we were just like, this is dumb. We're not gonna do that.
Dude, you absolutely should do that, or have a default load if something's not loading fast enough. Like that's killer. I love that idea.
It's in my back pocket where we'll use it at some point. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm like, okay, it can build stuff. And then it's like, okay, what would be useful if I build something, if I were to build something next, like what might that be? It probably took me a while to realize like Bolt was one of my favorites. There's so many out there. Just like try different ones because they all act differently. And like, don't be afraid to like, if you don't know what to build, ask it like, hey, what should I build? It will probably tell you and give you some great recommendations.
That is awesome. So I kind of want to look forward now though for you, right? Like armed with these tools, what are you hoping to achieve in the next like 6 months? If you can focus on the things that maybe you thought were going to take a lot longer than 6 months that you're kind of bringing forward. Like, are you adjusting your timelines for what you want to achieve within your business because of these tools? And if so, can you share a little bit about what you're focusing on with that?
Yeah, a lot of these tools are like the way I look at the next 6 months or next year, I'm looking at it as accelerating some of the things that we're doing from a software development side of things for our product, for our app, because that does like, it's a very complex product. It doesn't seem like it. It's a thing that sends emails, but there's actually a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So if we can accelerate some of the things like, again, prototyping, onboarding flows, or some sort of in-app experience, we'll absolutely accelerate it with some of these, some of these AI tools. The thing that I'm really excited about the next 6 months to a year is getting us from, what did I say, 3 to 4 out of 10 to like maybe 5 or 6. I'm not going to go like 10 out of 10. I don't even know what that might be. Like that means like all of our teammates are just, they're running their own profitable apps. I don't necessarily want that. Maybe I do. I think that would be awesome. But I think it's like leveling us up a little bit. So we're being more intentional about what we're building. We're getting more comfortable with it. We're implementing more workflows within our day-to-day infrastructure and just getting better, like working smarter, not necessarily harder. And that's always been something that we focus on. It's like, okay, if we're spending any time, like more than once on a specific activity, that's like any sort of administrative activity or something that like can somehow be automated, like we need to figure out how to automate it and prioritize what to automate first. So those are things that like, the data tool is a great example. We've saved hours and hours with having this data tool. There's additional things that we can do to even automate that further. I think we'll continue to improve on those things and just think about how we can just be as efficient as possible and really just leverage, like when it comes to like time and resources, get the most out of like what we're doing and who we are.
You should appreciate I was talking to a founder literally this morning, and I knew she has needed sales outbound support for a while. And she's talking and she's like, Yeah, I finally got help. Like I figured it out. Like we got some help with this on the outbound and the sales component. I'm talking to her for like 30 minutes. I thought she hired an AE, and she's like, yeah, it's like Parakeet. It's like, oh, you just like, you're using the tool. Okay, that's an interesting framing to describe it, but that's cool, man. I always, when I bring up 2 or 3 people to show Steven, I hype them up and hope they live up to it. So I hope Eric lived up to your expectations.
Hopefully I did.
Oh yeah, no, it's super impressive. As we kind of wrap up here, though, Eric, I kind of want to give you the floor a little bit, if you want it. Maybe provide a little insight on like what makes Parakeet different compared to, obviously you said it yourself, you have a lot of competitors out there, but what makes you, your business, your team, the Parakeet platform different and valuable compared to some of these other folks that are out there. I want to make sure that for those that are listening and don't know Parakeet, they get a little bit of that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the thank you for allowing me to have the plug here. So
yeah,
this is good.
Shameless
this is it. This is it. Yeah. Crush it.
Let's go. Yeah, it's funny. Like the call right before this, I jumped off. I was on a demo and like I got the same question. Like, how are you guys different? So it's something like we talk about all the time. Before we even started building Parakeet, it was all about how do we really perfect deliverability. Anyone can send emails. There's tons of platforms out there. Like there's all these different tools and tips and tricks and like, you don't really know what works until you try different things. When we built Parakeet, before we even started building it, we used different methods to improve our deliverability within sending emails. And what that means is like when you're prospecting and sending emails, like you want to get in someone's inbox, you want them to read it, you want them to reply, and you want it to convert to something that would hopefully convert to revenue. What makes us different is we really have built our platform around delivery, doing things like building relationships with Google. We have a direct partnership with Google. We're a big fan of like Google mailboxes. If you have Google mailboxes on our platform, we send directly through their API with their partnership, unlike a lot of other platforms out there that would send through their own servers or private servers that might have a lower reputation. So that's a big piece. And then we've also built in these like really cool things with AI that throttle emails based on deliverability. So if you have like 10 different email sending accounts and like someone flags one of the emails as spam, what our system does automatically is it reduces volume from that email, increases volume from the other sending accounts. So we're always maximizing delivery and also trying to make sure we don't burn accounts or burn domains. A lot of cool things in there. And the big piece, I mentioned it earlier, like we love making our customers happy. So like we try to get on calls with all of our customers. We try to help out as much as possible. So we're really like, we think about us as a platform, but like customer first, we want to make sure we're there to help and make sure all of our clients are successful.
Pretty sick. All right. Last question before we let you go. I promise this time. I need one really good like tip, trick for outbound email that you see either as like everyone makes this mistake or fun little fact. Like give us one little nugget for everybody to like improve their outbound email schemes.
The biggest nugget I can give you right now, because like a lot of people are doing outbound. If you look in, I'm sure your inbox, like if it looks anything like mine, just cold emails, like a bunch of and it's junk. And you can tell it's junk because like you click on it and it's like, it was either a shit email or you could tell it was written with AI. There's M dashes, like it's just not unique. So the number one like little tidbit or nugget that I'd give to anybody, and it's how we help our clients find success, it's how we get success with cold email, is just being as creative and human as possible. That doesn't mean like sending these like wacky emails. It means just trying to being as genuine and as human as you can with a little bit of creativity to make sure that whatever message you're sending resonates with the person you're sending it to. It sounds really, really simple, but nobody does it. And the people that do it get results. Yeah, if you're out there, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about, okay, I need to generate some replies or some meetings via email, just get creative. Like really study who you're sending that email to. And if it's too like convoluted and there's like, that's hard to do, you got to narrow your list. Like find those titles, pull those titles out, figure out what's going to resonate with them and talk to that person. When we do those exercises, like not every time, but almost every time, like we get results pretty quickly. Like we do those exercises with our users when they sign up. How do we generate replies? We just think about being as creative as we can and just talking to that person you're sending the email to. It's really, if you can do all the work to get into someone's inbox, you got to make sure that the message is right and it lands.
Pretty great answer. He crushed it.
Thanks.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Great.
I'll come back. If you want me to come back, we can talk about this stuff all day.
I mean, I'm down. I'm always down to learn more, and it's definitely an area that I need to learn more about. And we did a whole nother podcast about how bad I am at this specific thing, and I'm trying to work on it as we speak. So
when Steven and I built this episode, and I went out and looked for people to go ahead and bring up, he was like, "Isn't Eric Gordon's like a sales guy?" I'm like, "No, that's what this guy wants you to think. He's really turning into a dangerous combination of both." So
I'm a little bit of a marketer now. I'm a little bit of a coder and developer. Things are getting weird in 2025.
Yeah, that tool belt's getting full, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I love to hear that. That's great. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you and learn more about what you've been able to do with like the AI landscape that we're seeing grow literally right in front of us, which is really cool that folks like yourself that have been able to adapt so quickly, not even in your business as a whole, but even like to the changing technology landscape is really inspiring for folks like myself that are kind of on the same path as you of like kind of pivoting, but also doing a lot of crazy things and just learning how to adapt to see people that are succeeding in that is super fun. So I can't thank you enough for coming on. And Eric, other Eric, our Eric, good pick, but this was awesome.
Thanks for making me look good, other Eric.
Yeah, for sure. Steve, thanks for having me on. This is great. A lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Dope.
Cheers. That's the podcast.